Like, just imagine I'm like your HR manager, and I want to know about the company's terminations. So why they terminate, maybe when they terminate, or like, is there maybe a department, division, which has a high termination rate, and like maybe have like a little look. So the first example again is about filters. So as you can see here, we have like one filter which is called the story filter, and this filter options here basically count for all tabs. So before you could probably create one report and then like, great, so now what you see is what you get, but you also can have different tabs. So like in this term, like I have two tabs, like a termination employee report and then a time and pivots, and these filters here are basically count for both. We have like also page filters, which are basically in the working area. So here I just could like limit it for like early retirement and invent in like whatever this termination reason is. So this is basically like two filters, and the last filter is like a widget filter. So any widget you can see here, you can also filter on based on what you want to filter. Like maybe you want to have a look at the special division or department and so on. So there's far more functionality, and it makes the end user so much more easier to filter on your special need. I want to get to the next section, and that's breakdown. So imagine you have a report, and so now you want to see the terminations per division. You build that, and that looks pretty nice. So now you know the requirement in the company is like they want it not only by division, they want it for legal entity, for cost center, and every time you need to copy and paste the same component again, and like use a different grouping dimension. So with story filter, you have one cool feature, which I call it breakdown. And so you can basically list the dimensions you want to group by like a specific chart. You could also use different charts if you want to. So for example, if I have my chart here, termination per division, I maybe want to change it to legal entity. So I basically just change legal entity and get the terminations grouped by the legal entity, which saves you a lot of space and is just so user friendly because there's basically nothing else the end user needs to do. And also, if you do that, is like you already see here, like in the headlines, it automatically changed like the header to number of termination per, and then you can use a dynamic parameter. So I will just quickly go into edit mode to show you. So you see here, there was like this little gray thing, and it's very easy to create like headers with parameters. You maybe remember again in the Canvas reporting or on the Report Designer, that was really limited. Like you can maybe use like who creates a report, like a page, and here you have all possibilities of which dimensions, like a list of dimension, what is filtered on. Like it's really great functionality, because if you export, you maybe don't want to like assume things which was filtered in the runtime filter. So this really helps the end users to get a better understanding and more intuitive idea. So actually I can stay in the edit mode, and I want to go to the next point, which I changed the report. Oh, actually I forgot one point, sorry. The drill down. So let me stay in the view mode, because again, it's a responsive report and maybe confuse so the one or other person. So drill downs is great with UCAL dashboard building. It was really interactive, but with on a report designer, not that much. So you basically know, okay, there's maybe 9 terminations here in the best run company, and I want to know who it is. And you normally had to create another like component to see like the details about that person, maybe even seeing why they get terminated. Oh great, now I run into an error. Maybe that was not selected for the best run company. Maybe we don't have any values here. Let me go for division just to have a better example so you don't see some errors. So let me go for corporate services, and I'm pretty sure we have some better numbers there. So we have 6 and got all automatically it changed. And we can basically here see for the corporate services, our 6 people, they get terminated, why they get terminated, when they get hired, when they get terminated. And this is just a great functionality for the drill down. Anywhere you basically can click and then automatically filter the table below. If it's like a report, you want to monitor things or just have a deeper look into things. And the other thing is for like in the drill down included, maybe not really included, but like how to make it in general a little bit more dynamic. It's like linked analysis. That's basically how you do the drill down. So basically, if I click here, you see a chart changing. So for example, in this chart here, like donut chart or pie chart, I have the terminations by event reason, but like what I really want to know is like who's behind the 22%. So not only I want to know the 22% or like basically there's 7, you see the mouse over, so there's 7 terminations. I want to know who it is, maybe even which division it is. And if I click now, basically nothing changed. So this is like it's really easily handleable to create like a linked analysis. So basically click on this component, do the linked analysis, saying what you want to change. So I only want the specific widget to change. I select the data point and let me select the table here and the chart. And you just apply on it. So if I click now, you will see this chart changing and my table. So basically I would get like it filtered by the 7 terminated people by division, and I get the 7 people here down. So it's really interactive, and you also can like cascade the interaction or the linked analysis with other objects, as again as you saw it when I can and just select which charge or component should be selected or changed. So let me change to the people report, and let's stay in the edit mode because I want to show you like a little workaround. So this component here is basically like the time component, or like it's called, I think, time series. And a time series is not really ideal to really show aggregated date functionalities. It basically goes to one specific event. And this is also where the important fact comes in, that story reporting is still based on operational reporting. So if I just like zoom a little bit in here for my events, like I see that on this specific date and time, there were basically 15 people terminated. And like, again, you see that for specific dates, but not really aggregated for time. And this doesn't change anything here. It's basically just a time filter. So the time series is not ideal, and I will show you later that like SAP also working on it to get this component like improved. So there is a kind of workaround. You basically can just recalculate the time event or the timestamp into a date or a year. So I have here a chart with number of termination, and this overall is 39. So I can now just add a dimension and say, look, I calculated this date into a year, and now I simply could use like years. So maybe this like chart, I wanted to have it rather vertical because I'm getting more used to vertical changes per year. So now I see like all the terminations per year, which is much better than the time series, if you ask me. And normally a lot of companies for terminations or headcount report, they would expect something like this. If you want, you can even go like a step further and say maybe not by year, I also want it per month. And you just can combine different dimensions together, even in their hierarchy. So obviously, if I would put months ahead, that would be ideal. But if the year dimension is first and the second last, so now you would see for each year, for each month, there was a termination. You would see that, and that's like basically in one chart all you need to understand between operational reporting and workforce analytics. Because what actually in workforce analytics happen is there is a proper metric calculated in an own dimension. So basically per year, per month. In operational reporting or in store reporting, we still have only what we get from EC, and this is mostly just like an event dates. Even if you can imagine like the time slices we have, they work in time, like with a start date and end date, but not on a specific date. So for example, headcount is quite difficult. There are workarounds with that, but I think just to understand the difference between the operational reporting and store reporting, this is what you can do in store reporting, again, with a couple of workarounds. And if you have some months in between where someone was not terminated, you don't see it here because you don't have the proper calculation per month or per year in their own dimension. Okay. But again, this was also not possible in ORD, so there's nothing new and there's no magic. In store reporting, it's basically the better visualization tool, or better database, but you still have limits, so don't get illusionated that you can do everything. A couple of other things which is also better than the online report designer is pivot tables. You see like here a typical pivot table, and what you could probably do in store reporting, you can like have like an additional column and calculate like the sum. But which was never possible was to have a total sum also for the column. Sorry, I mean rows before. So that's pretty cool that I have like now a really easy functionality to create sums for rows and column. And you can create even like different functionalities like average or giving a rank and stuff like that. Another nice feature, which I think also is a huge improvement towards on a report designer or canvas reporting, is like you can like add this little kind of goodies and have conditional formatting. So I think that that's pretty neat. Now I think hopefully not everyone saw it yet, but super powerful functionalities for an end user is the functionality of exploration mode. So I'm back in the view mode here. So basically this is what I see as an HR manager. And you see there is kind of this little link here which says, okay, 2 Explorer views is enabled. And there's a functionality for each chart. You can enable like an Explorer view. So someone could just click on it and go deeper into this chart. So let me do that. I also mentioned there's a different button here. You can enter that. So I just go in this Explorer view here from this chart to see the number of terminations per event reason. So you see now this UI gives you like basically 2 main functionalities in my perspective. One is like you can filter on specific things. So we basically see the standard filter, which was like selected before. We filter this chart by event reason. You actually can use different dimension, and this can be limited. So maybe I want to see the determinations not by event reason, but by division. And rather the end user asking you now to create that, like he could just go in the Explorer view and like change it from event reason to division. And so now like the same chart type as we had before, we would get the number of terminations just by division. So you can like even like get more like complex and combine different dimension, or you can even like use additional filters. So maybe I just want to see all divisions, but filtered by early retirement. So you can imagine, you can go on with that thing and go into more complex situations or visualization. Well, pretty bad. We just have just one division here with early retirement. But not only this, it's like maybe someone says like, look, this pie chart is great, but like it doesn't really fulfill my purpose. You basically have all the visualization types also listed here. So if you say like, look, this is great, but I still would prefer like a heat map if you have like a lot of dimensions. So that would like give the end user the opportunity to play a lot around with how you want to show, what you want to show it, and this is great. So not only like that, like he just can go and save his own like change in a new like view, and then the next time he come here, he just can select his new view and yeah, just have a look at what he created for himself, and also share or see it by other people. So I think that that's good enough for like an idea. You already saw in the edit view, there is a responsive mode, which I choose here. There's basically like 3 different types: responsive, canvas, and grid. So responsive, like you can imagine, if you have like a responsive page, and you have the opportunity to select that on the mobile device, and there's a little view here, like device preview. So you can actually look how your report would look like on an Android or even on the other one is Apple. So that I think that's pretty cool. Again, there will be other functionalities on the roadmap for mobile readiness, but you get the idea. Also, just as a quick tip, it's in general recommended to use responsive. They're supposed to be a little bit faster and in performance than canvas reporting. Grid reporting you barely use, it's basically just a table. And the last one I want to show you is the export functionality, because when you create a report with ad hoc reporting, you probably saw the struggle with how you need to basically like copy a report and need to optimize it for a different output, like be it a PowerPoint or like as a PDF. With export functionality and story reporting, you really get into a slide to what you really also see on the report. So basically it's scaling what you created, like even if an element is far out, it scales down the report. And this is what you get. So it's much easier if you say like, look, okay, not every end user really wants to go in here and see the report. You still need to export elements, but you don't want to do like screenshots or snippets. It's a great way to export. And for me personally, one of the big benefits is also you get an appendix where you exactly see what each chart or like page was filtered on, because nothing is worse than like giving away like a piece of information without basically knowing how it was defined and how it was filtered on, because that's where people analytics problems come into a company if different departments report different things. All right, I think that's it for the demo. Let me continue with some more theory. And at the content store. So let me keep in the demo just to show you quickly where the content store is. It needs to be activated, sure, but it's basically under import. And here you just can upload like a file, but second tab is a content store. And you have a lot of reports. I think it's at the moment it's still like around 55 reports. They're mostly from Employee Central. There's a couple of time reports, And like, of course, SAP like works on providing more standard content you can use, and also I know from talent module some is in development, but give the team a little bit of time to prepare, because again, every customer has a different implementation. And like a tip for me here is like, of course, go in, like import and learn, but in each view more, there's a description of the report, and really, if you want to do more with story reporting, use the functional and the technical documentation. It's also really, really great as a beginner or company to read how it's created. All right, so let me continue with the content store in SuccessFactors. So I already told you, like from showing, it's under import, and you can use the standard reports, and similar like in the Canvas reporting, if you create a new report, have a look at the standard reports, use them as a base, and then build on top on that. There's a great documentation available, and basically at the moment 55 standard reports, mostly C, but more to come. There's also a new functionality, so of course not every standard report will work in each instance because there's different configuration, there will be objects missing. So there is a validation tool. It's actually still in beta in the production, so treat it carefully. But it's a great tool, and I think for reference, there's a video on YouTube already where I show how it works, so I would rather refer to that. Have a look how it works and what you need to take care when you like play around with a validation tool for story reporting. Here, just like a screenshot, just as a backup. That's just one example for a standard report. So talking a little bit about the roadmap. What's basically coming for story reporting? There are some small things coming in the next release of this year. So basically there are standard reports for onboarding, and there will be other features, you know, like homepage was one important thing. So there will be your favorites coming. And I think for the other parts, I mostly will show you in some following slides. So I will not mention here, but have a look when it's coming. But there's one like big like insider tip I can give you away with a disclaimer that again we're talking about the SAP roadmap, so nothing is for sure, and I also don't guarantee that it's coming or not. But Sven talked at the beginning about like story reporting, and it will basically sunset all the other reporting tools, right? But yet there was no announcement of sunset dates. This will come. This will likely come in the next release update, that they will announce when specifically all the other reporting tools would get sunsetted, and giving you all the details about it. I'm not going too far out of my windows, but the last time they said they will sunset in 3 years, so I would expect something similar. And the last time it was basically 1 year. You can like basically still like edit reports. After 2 years you just can read, and after 3 years it will be basically be gone. And again, there's no migration path. You would need to build everything from scratch. This is simply the reason, because it's basically on a new database, on the HANA harmonized data model. So that's why you just cannot simply migrate it to a new tool. So you have to build it from scratch. And another big insider tip is that in the next release updates, there will be a lot of work into performance and stability. So there is still like the one or other performance issue, or like call it bug, or call it like weird behavior, but they're working really, really hard on it to improve that, and there will be a lot of updates. Again, I cannot promise anything, but these two things is also, which is not officially on the roadmap, but I think you can count on that. So a couple of things I also mentioned. So one is the time hierarchy. They will work on that. So you basically will get a time hierarchy where you just hopefully also can group the time series per like time dimensions, like year, quarter, or months. Another thing which is important we do use SAP technology, but one important thing is also the data model we have in SuccessFactors is basically pre-delivered. And in SAP Analytics Cloud, you still had to import SF information, which is a little bit annoying because you need to create your own data model. So there will be a live connector to SuccessFactors where you basically can use the data model in SuccessFactors without additional doing in SAP Analytics Cloud. Again, at the moment, there's just like a connector where you can import data, but it's not live. So you still need to load data daily, weekly, monthly, depends on what to do. Then this is probably the most exciting feature for me personally. There's like a kind of plan to do embedded cards. So basically there will be different points in SuccessFactors where you just get like a little like kind of card or a snippet of one chart, and you probably have a link below where you just can basically click and get into a full story reporting. So imagine this kind of report when you are in a compensation form, in a performance and goals form, when you're on the learning page, or any site as a HR admin to an employee to see an overview of an employee where they are with their learning plans or with their own team on their homepage. So this is really exciting. And also you probably noticed that there is not a good scheduling for story reports yet. And the SAP team works hard, also inspired by an influence idea. So the team works on basically like build like a proper scheduling, also respecting a full RVP, because again, in the past, also with canvas reporting, it was a little bit tricky sometimes. You can run the reports and who gets what. So I think this is also something which comes again, always with the disclaimer. So Sven, I hope you still have enough time to talk a little bit about our starter package.
Yes, we'll look at it briefly. I hope you don't have important appointments tonight. Chris, no dates or something, because I think we have 19 questions already.
Oh, that's good.
But quickly on the starter package, because we often get asked, how do we get started? It looks like a great tool, but sometimes there's something new coming from SAP. It takes ages to actually get benefits out of it. So just want to share as one way of going into it, what we are doing with most of our customers as a starter package, and anybody can basically get this if you are interested. But we used to start with a setup for IAS and IDP. It's grayed out now because most customers now have IAS set up already as a technical prerequisite to actually use story reporting at all. If you don't have set it up yet, it's difficult to say how long it takes. If you go absolutely standard, it's really a few hours work spread over a week. But most customers don't go absolutely standard. They have their own identity providers they want to build in, and it can become quite complex, and it can be a several month project. But remember, this is not just for story reporting. This is why we took it out of the story reporting package. This is the future, how SAP is going to manage access to their cloud systems, not just SuccessFactors. But on core story reporting, we like to start with a kickoff workshop to understand what are your business objectives, what are your target users, how would line managers use it as opposed to just HR. I think you have to involve line managers to get the full value out of it, to empower people, but it depends on your strategy. So start to understand what you want to get out of it and your priorities, because you can do so much with it. You have to start somewhere. Then just to the technical activation of story reporting, that's the smallest part of the whole thing. The main part is really doing some training for your admins or key users, or train the trainer. So you have a few people who have like a proper basic training in how the story reporting tool works. And then we also recommend to do a very short, like half-day training for each module, because it's not just knowing where to click to achieve something in story reporting, it's to understand how the data model of each module actually works within it. But wouldn't spend weeks on just doing theoretical training, basic training, and then just build things together with an expert so you get going, and then go on your own and maybe get a few hours of support from the expert. And so that's something that can really be done quite quickly. It's nothing you should get used to have everything done by a consultant. It's meant for key users, admins, to use the tool to build reports and then to make them available to run online for HR and for line managers and other stakeholders. Other customers just prefer to say, okay, we've seen some training, we just jump into it, and if we are at risk of drowning, we have your number, we call you and get a couple of hours support to get out of the woods again. So that's the things I would not recommend to say we do a big project of 1 year with hundreds of consulting days to implement story reporting, because it's an incremental thing. You don't have to switch from all your old tools to story in 1 day. It's a longer process, and if you stretch this process, you really can achieve a lot without too much paying too much for external help. But it usually pays off to have somebody who has seen it a few times before helping you get into the saddle, so to say. That's that. So just to take away like the scare, maybe that it looks like a huge project, and that's where we already want to get into questions. As I said, there are lots of questions. Apologies, we won't be able to answer them all in the session. I try to pick. I've answered some to everybody already in writing. I try to pick some that are reasonably quick to answer, hopefully. So one question, and Chris, if you say this is taking half an hour to answer, we'll take it offline and answer by email. But I want to pick this because it's what actually the first question asked, saying, I would really be interested how you have found the report sharing, as we have noticed some major problems when sharing stories with other stakeholders. Is this something you have seen too, Chris? And is there workarounds?
So sharing works like traditionally very much like either on a specific user or like role-based permissioning groups or like role-based permissioning roles. So I think that's fair enough, but I think maybe the issue comes also from the RBP permission side, because like sometimes you build a report and you wanna say, hey, whoever I share with should see all the data I see because I created this report, and you should see all the data. But story reporting really much focusing on like the report user who runs the report only sees in the report what they really also see in the system. So there's no, or like for, especially for EC, there's no special permission. Oh, you can see this, you can see this. Everything in role-based permissioning setup, you will see also in the report. So there is, especially for EC, for example, there's no like permission you can give or you can share with like, oh, now you can see everything. No, that's not working. So this is one of the major issues I see, because what permission someone needs to see something which I actually can see, or I see something and you see something else, because this is basically a user-centric framework for what kind of data you see. For sharing, I think it's pretty fair with whoever you want to use, and you maybe get into the issue that you need to create specific role-based permissioning groups or something to share. But I think what kind of data you see is a bigger issue.
And I think we have questions going in a similar direction, all about coming from the ORD mindset. And it's interesting because I think most users I know celebrated the change in how permissions work, because I think in story reporting, it's consistent with RBP, with the general RBP, but then it seems that some delegates now they have found a way that works for them in ORD. So there's one question: we are struggling with role-based permissions to replicate in story reporting that we have in Canvas today. What is the solution? I guess there is no solution. It's just a different concept, right? So you have to follow the concept that story is using for permissions.
Yeah, there is no really granular path to just like do something similar, because you had roles on what they can see and what not in ORD, but here now it's really focusing everything on RBP. So for telemodules, there's an exception. Like for example, there's special RBP permissions for some telemodules, especially for recruiting, compensation, goals, and performance, where you do have like a checkbox for, oh, this person or this role can, for example, see all data, but not for EC. So I think story reporting is also solving this much better, but I do understand, like for some companies who got used to the old structure or the old way how they do reporting, they need to rethink it. And also comes again, role-based permissioning, maintenance of groups and roles is actually really important. It's also very important for the performance. If I don't want to open the window now, but if we have time, I'm talking 2 minutes about it. But let's go on for the question. But role-based permissioning is very important for story reporting.
Yeah, I think most customers are quite happy that anything people see in the profile, they also see it in the report, and they don't have to redo it. But I understand that there are some cases where this might not be what you want, and then yeah, that's difficult. Another question: which modules are supported in story reporting, and does it support cross-module reporting?
Yes, cross-module reporting is very much supported. Some modules which are not supported, it's not like a lot of modules, but some areas. So for example, onboarding 1.0 is not supported. Like multi-posting is not supported. This is like an area in recruiting, and also advanced analytics in RMK, recruiting marketing, is not supported. It's still a separate data source. And LMS has two steps. One is LMS alone, and one is then later on for LMS integrated in SuccessFactors. So basically, if you create a new report, you have to select the moment which data source you want to use. This is the first step. So you can report on LMS data standalone without SuccessFactors. And then the next step, maybe the next release update, hopefully they integrate it so you have also LMS. So onboarding 1.0 is not available in some areas, but I highly recommend there is, I don't want to open too much browsers and search for it. In the help page for story reporting, it's all listed. All limitations are listed, depends on the modules, and also details in each module what you can report on and what not, because there are limitations basically in all modules for some very, very specific things.
Okay, great. So next question. When will we be able to link data from LMS to the rest of the modules?
I don't know when I'm not SAP. I would hope the next release update. I think they had set something, but I would also need to look in their customer community. Like for those kind of dates, I also don't put my hand into the fire anymore.
I think I have seen it on the roadmap for this year, but roadmaps change. So I really suggest you go on the roadmap explorer and see when it comes. It's really the one big gap so far, because LMS was originally only available within as a single module without connection to the others. So there's one quick question. I don't see recruiting stories in the content store. Do we have RCM standard stories?
No, recruiting is nothing there yet. And if you don't see a content store, you'll probably miss an RBP permission.
Yeah, it's not about not seeing the content store. The question is really not seeing RCM reports in there. So SAP started focus on EC. There are other modules coming with templates, but yet it will take some time. There will be more and more over time. Can we create a shortcut for stories in the homepage?
There is no favorites at the moment. Yeah, there's no favorites. This is coming on the roadmap. I think I had the slide for the next. There will be a shortcut where you can like mark your favorite reports, and then you have the shortcut on the homepage. At the moment, also with the new homepage, it's not available. It's kind of funny, sad, but it's coming.
Okay, so let me quickly check. This is referring to during the demo, Chris, you showed a bit of a workaround to have numbers by year, where you don't really get time series in Story like you would in Workforce Analytics, but with the workaround you showed, you can show numbers by year. And I think this question was posted at that time when you showed that. Will it be possible to compare the years against each other, like 2020 against 2021?
Yes. Yes, but just on a specific date. There is, I could search for the standard report now. There is a standard report which shows something similar. So basically what it looks like is you just can imagine there is one column basically for today, and then it goes on a specific date back. 1 year back, 2 years back, 3 years back, 5 years back. But it is not a proper like comparison. It's basically, it chooses a date, which is today, or like whatever date you choose, and then it's comparing back the years. So there's a kind of workaround for that, but it's not like Workforce Analytics where it's probably calculating it per month or year.
Okay, thanks a lot, Chris. Yeah, I think it's time to wrap up. Thanks a lot for your questions. I'm overwhelmed. This is a great group. Sometimes we are happy to get 2 or 3 questions, and now I don't know how many there are now. I lost sight of all the questions dropping in, but we will make an effort to condense the questions and replies and add this to the follow-up email with the slides and the link for the recording. Thanks a lot for joining us. As we said, if you say, I like the tool, but I could do with some help of getting into it, please reach out to Chris or myself, or through our website, or through the as a reply to the follow-up email, and we could do something like a starter package with you, which is not about tens of thousands of euros, but there's a leg up that can be done in quite a few days, quite efficiently, and then you can take it from there. So very happy to help you. Chris is somebody who likes working at night, so even if you're in Australian time zone, would probably be able to help you. But that's enough of the sales part. I wish you a wonderful evening, or maybe start of the day, depending on where you are. Hope that you got some inspiration, and hopefully with the follow-up email, more of your questions will be answered. Okay, thanks a lot, Chris, for your expertise.
Oh, thanks, Sven. Thanks, guys. Happy to have you. Bye-bye.
Bye.